So Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first one, has just received a brand new update. The Next Generation update, which is out right now and aims to bring KCD1 closer to the standards of the second game. At least visually, gameplay experience-wise, and I've been playing this next-gen version of KCD1 for about 7 months at this point. That's how long I've had to keep this secret, and today, I just want to quickly let you guys know everything this update actually offers, and whether it's worth jumping back into KCD1 for. Or worth jumping into for the first time if you haven't already played it, if you maybe started with KCD2 like a lot of people did and haven't gone back yet. First things first though, just know that this next-gen update is completely free if you already own the game, and the update is coming to PS5, which is the footage you're seeing, and also Xbox X and S, where KCD1 is also releasing on Game Pass today, something to know, and this update also applies to PC, sort of. We'll talk about PC in a minute, there's a patch with some significant changes there as well, but I say sort of overall on the update coming to PC because much of what is just now coming to console already was on PC and had been for years. Speaking of, the main console-only upgrades with this update are of course the huge ones that people have been begging for years. Visually, KCD1 on console has been dramatically upgraded. I was told PC Ultra settings were used as a baseline for textures and such, and resolution-wise, the game is finally available in 4K 60 FPS for console players. Or more specifically, 2K native upscaled to 4K. Which, almost needless to say, is a massive, it can't possibly be overstated improvement over the state console KCD1 had been in. We're talking about a game where for years, for the past 8 years, I believe today is the game's exact 8th anniversary, but for all of that time, console players have had to deal with 30 FPS, very questionable textures in places, and just generally a game that was made to run on PS4s close to a decade ago, and hadn't been updated since to take advantage of a whole new generation of consoles. Now, with this update, KCD1 on console runs perfectly. I was sent a huge list of patch notes detailing just how far out of the way this patch goes to optimize every demanding corner of this game. From the bigger towns like Rattay that always caused KCD1 to drop frames, even from a 30 FPS cap, to the main quest battle scenes that absolutely tanked performance, all of that has been smoothed out and optimized. I had a virtually flawless experience. It couldn't have been any more different from when I tried this game on PS4 a while ago. And in terms of performance, it was just smooth sailing from beginning to end, and I'm not basing this off of just playing the intro or something. I did a full playthrough over these past months, every single side quest, with part of that playthrough being on an earlier build of the next-gen update, from back in August or September or something. And even then, before I was sent an improved build, I was still having virtually no problems with performance. Now of course, it's still KCD1, this isn't a remake, so if you're used to seeing PC Ultra gameplay like I'm usually showing on this channel, then it's not gonna look much different from that, but that's exactly the point. KCD1 was just not in good shape on console, and this next-gen upgrade finally brings the console experience a lot closer to high-end settings on PC, which, by the way, if you're watching this and you haven't played KCD1, either because you heard the console version was not ideal, or because you've heard that the first game is archaic and old compared to the second, I am telling you KCD1 is well worth playing in its own right. The best way I can put it is if you loved the first area in KCD2, the Trotsky region where things were lower stakes and just simpler overall, if you loved that region of KCD2 the most, the first half of the game before things get way more complicated in Kuttenberg, then you are gonna love KCD1. If the Trotsky region was your thing, KCD1 would be like if you never left that region, if the game just ended before things got really crazy. Yes, the scale of the first game is much smaller, and things don't ramp up quite as much and get so incredibly cinematic like KCD2 does, but honestly, that is a huge part of the charm for me. I'd be curious what you guys think, those of you who have played both, because after playing KCD2, even with all of its improvements, going back to KCD1 these past months was just as enjoyable for me as the first time I ever played it. KCD2 does a lot of things better, but I don't know, KCD1 really still has its charm for me. It's still a top 5 game ever for me. It's also worth mentioning if you tried KCD1 on console in the past and you dropped it because of performance or some other reason, I was told that your old saves will work perfectly fine, so you're not gonna have to start over. You'll be able to continue on from wherever you left off. Let's move on though and talk about the other part of the next-gen update, aka the changes that, in addition to console, are also coming to PC for most PC players with patch 1.97. And I say for most players because this patch will only be coming to Steam and the Epic Game Store, at least right now. No GOG, unfortunately. I'm not sure why, although that might change in the future. Anyway, for patch 1.97, and again, everything from this point forward applies to PC as well as console, but most of what we have is a bunch of what Warhorse are calling legacy fixes, aka problems the game has had for years that are just now getting smoothed out. The only new content, so to speak, is a brand new horse comparison that you can get after the prologue, which you unlock by creating an account with the game's publisher, Deep Silver, and then linking that account to the game. You've probably already done similar in KCD2 because there's a lot of gear unlocked that same way. The legacy fixes, though, are overall focused on stability and bugs to an extent, which we need to revisit the bug topic in a minute. We'll come back to that. The biggest stability changes, though, come down to a ton of crash triggers being fixed, although I will say my game did still crash every now and then. I think I experienced like 8 over my 70-ish hour playthrough, although worth noting I wasn't playing on the final build for some of that playthrough, so that could have been improved further. They also fixed some infinite loading screens, some issues that cause saves to corrupt, and for players to get locked out of certain quests. Memory leaks were fixed here and there, and in the patch notes they even call out a very specific issue where dogs in the game apparently couldn't find a proper path to navigate the map, and apparently that had been causing massive performance decreases on all platforms for a very long time, which I wonder how they found that one. Now, if you look at that list of fixes and you're thinking that it isn't especially long, that there's not really that much there for such a long game, well, I would say even before I was sent the patch notes a few days ago, before I knew exactly what had been fixed, my experience playing this update is that the bug fixes were fairly minimal, at least in terms of how many they fixed, in terms of quantity. KCD1 isn't an especially buggy game anymore anyway. I mean, they ironed out most of those bugs 5+ years ago, but I will say when I did experience a bug in this next-gen playthrough, which did happen a few times, it was always a bug I'd already experienced in a past playthrough, aka a pretty common and repeatable one, and it was also always just a visual thing, a small visual thing that didn't really affect my playthrough overall. Point is, it didn't seem to me like they went through KCD1 with a fine-tooth comb, fixing all of the tiny little things that survived the old patches. Instead, they just focused on the big, game-breaking, performance-affecting problems and left it at that for the most part. Which, to be honest, that's part of the reason I think it's a very good thing that Warhorse shadow dropped this upgrade. If they had been hyping up a next-gen update for months, releasing teaser trailers and really getting people super excited, well, I think imaginations would have run wild and you would have had a lot of people expecting more than what this update is, aka a very necessary one for console and a nice little improvement for PC players. Anyway, I have 2 final things I should mention before wrapping this video up. With this update, PlayStation and Xbox are finally getting a ton of localization improvements that, again, already existed on PC, like a Czech voiceover, Japanese voiceover, etc. And it's also important to point out, to give thanks where they're due, that this update was not handled by Warhorse alone. I think they're pretty busy with whatever their next game is going to be, and while I wasn't able to get an exact answer on who did what, Warhorse did team up with Saber Interactive for this upgrade, who are the same team that somehow got KCD1 running on the original Switch a few years ago, which, speaking of, I would love to see KCD1 on the Switch get an upgrade soon as well for the Switch 2. I think that is all from me today though. I don't think there's much else to say, so if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like as it really helps get my videos out there. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to PlayOn, the publisher of KCD, for including me and checking out the next-gen upgrade so long ago, and thanks to them for sponsoring that experience. I mean, it's hard to beat a sponsor where the main thing you need to do is just replay one of your favorite games of all time, one of those games you never shut up about, and then send them a document with some feedback. That was the pitch, which was pretty exciting. That is all for me today though. Thank you as always to my patrons for their continued support. I do have a bonus video going up there very soon. It's being worked on. It's almost done. It just got kind of out of hand, but it'll be up there very soon. That's all though, as I said, so see ya.